So we've all seen the devastating impact of Hurricane Helene this past week that has hit Western North Carolina and Tennessee, and we wanted to bring someone in who has some on-the-ground experience with Greg Biffle, helping with the relief efforts. Cleetus McFarland, you're here to tell us all about what your past week has been like. First of all, just thanks for taking some time today.
Yeah, no problem, man. Big fan of your guys' stuff, and it's honored to be on here and talk to you.
So, how did this first all get started for you and connecting with Greg Biffle to help with some of the cleanup, helping with some of the victims of Hurricane Helene and the impact?
Yeah, I can give you a quick rundown. I met Greg Biffle like maybe a month or two ago at one of my Crown Vic races, and he joined last minute. Absolutely great guy, raced with us, and it was cool. I didn't talk to him after that. I think this is July 20th. It was when I met him. Didn't talk to Greg for a while. Well, I get a call from a buddy up in North Carolina with a helicopter buddy of mine, and he's like, "Hey, if you could bring your helicopter up here, we could really use some help." So my wife and I were going out to dinner. We just jumped in the helicopter, flew it up to the your guys' area. We actually landed at Statesville Airport. Originally, we were going to Greenville, just south of Asheville, but there's no power there. So I had posted online that I was going, and Biffle texted me. We stayed with him, and then in the morning, Greg and I flew into the disaster area together, and that's kind of just how it happened. Like he just reached out and said, "Hey, I can give you a place to stay," and we couldn't find a place to stay, so it worked out really good. And he gave me fuel for the helicopter and supplies, so it worked out. Yeah.
And this helicopter, it was originally an abandoned helicopter that you flipped.
Yeah. So our YouTube channel, we do a really broad spectrum of motorsports type stuff, from building, race cars. We just built an all-wheel drive Dale Earnhardt Craftsman Series truck, and we bought this abandoned helicopter from Venezuela. And I've had helicopters for years, but this one's a really cool one. It's called an MD 500, and it was abandoned for a really long time. We bought it for cheap, fully renovated it, and picked it up last week. And so it just happened to be the right timing, and it's the perfect helicopter for this mission. And we went into the deepest parts of, I think, the damage, went into some crazy tight spots and got on the ground and helped people get water, insulin, other medications, anything you can name it. And then we just hauled out whoever was weakest and just did it all day.
How long have you been a pilot for? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I think I've had my helicopter license for 4 years, so not super long. But I fly all the time. It's basically a daily driver. We use them a lot around here in Florida. It's the best mode of transportation in this area, and it's a blessing to have them, And my YouTube channel is the reason I have mine, and I feel super blessed all the time just to even see the things sitting in my garage. So a mission like this, it feels like you have to do it. If you have that
Yeah.
blessing to own it and you get that call, like, that's something that we really wanted to be a part of as pilots, is helping these people. So
You mentioned 4 years. It's not a whole lot of time to have a pilot's license, and you said you had to get in some difficult spots. How much of a challenge was it rescuing some of these people?
I would say that most of the landing zones are like a 7 out of 10 or higher in difficulty.
Really?
And that's probably the thing that I don't think people understood the most, because everyone's like, where's the government, and where's the Blackhawks and the Chinooks? And they were there when we were there. But the rotor wash that comes with a Blackhawk is so crazy, especially a Chinook. Like, these guys, if they go down into these holes, not only do they blow stuff everywhere. Those helicopters are 60 feet long. A Blackhawk is 60 feet long. I'm typed in them, and it's a it's like you're flying a school bus. You're sitting in the front of a school bus, and then you just pull this lever and it flies. So they couldn't really get in on that tight stuff, and all the private helicopter guys started showing up, and that's when we really got a lot of supplies into the small areas. So, I'd say the difficulty level was really high. And as far as I know, as of right now, there's been no accidents with the private helicopter guys, which is amazing.
Yeah. No, it's really good. You said 7 out of 10 or higher. So, like, what type of landings are you encountering? Is it difficult terrain? Is there not a lot of room to land?
I think, yeah, the hardest stuff is when there's like 50-foot trees, right?
Yeah.
When they're in a circle. And what residents were doing was drawing X's on roads.
Huh.
And you're welcome to pull a clip from my videos. They put an X, and then we would fly over it, and we'd see them, and then we'd see a group of people down at the bottom. So, and we'd also have 600 pounds of water bottles and other equipment with us. And like the real difficult part of a landing like this is the helicopter uses the most power possible during an out of ground effect hover. And I don't know how detailed you want me to get because I could go on a rant.
Go ahead.
But basically, out of ground effect, hovering, the helicopter has to, that's when they use the most horsepower. So you have to get straight above these circles, straight above this hover hole, and then make a vertical descent. And all you can see is out the front, right? And so my wife is reaching her head out the door watching the tail, and you just have to go really, really slow and bring the helicopter down. And also have enough horsepower to do it because you're at elevation, there's wind coming down the mountains, and then you have to go perfectly straight down and land, and then unload, and then hopefully take people out. And depending on the weight of who you're taking, it was just really tough flying. We were using every bit of horsepower we had, and what was one cool story is I landed on this really tight X, and I'm talking to these guys while they're loading their wife and his wife and her mom, and I'm like, they're telling me that the town up the hill, they can't get to it because the water cut through, and then they can't get down the hill because the water cut back through their road. So there's like 3 sections up this ravine. And I'm like, how many people are up at the top? And he's like, there's 50, I think. And I said, do you think you can hike across? This guy had a rope around his chest. I remember it so vividly. And he's like, I'm like, do you think you could get up there and tell them we need an LZ? Because I had already gone up to the top. And he's like, yeah. I said, I'll be back in an hour. And I come back, I fly these women back into town. I come back. This dude cleared like a square acre and drew an X in an hour. And I was just like, oh my gosh. We pulled up there. Sure enough, this man cleared an LZ. And then we went in, dropped supplies, and went back out. It was just like these guys, and everywhere we landed, there was kids from, I would say, 16 years old to like 80 years old. These like taking charge and being organized and making it happen. It was really fascinating just seeing how these a lot of young men were like really stepping up to the plate, and I just couldn't believe it. It's like nothing I've ever seen before.
What was the emotion of the people when they saw you were here, that you were there to help rescue them and get them to safer place? Like, what was the emotion on their face and their voice like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can tell you that I landed at a fire station, and like I would say we were the first faces they had seen since Friday morning when it all went down. And like when I walked to that fire station, they were pretty frantic, like, just wondering, when are we going to leave? And they had no idea what was going on. They had no communication. They didn't know who was alive out of their town. And there was a lot of emotion. And I went inside to see this map because they had a physical map. And the amount of like houses they pointed out on the map, I remember, it was a lot. And then I took off to go check that area out, and like there was not very many houses. So, just imagine the world's biggest bulldozer just driving through, every low spot, because so much water would drain into the valleys and then just landslide it down. That's the best description of it.
Wow. You mentioned you were the first faces they'd seen since Friday morning. I know Greg posted on his Twitter as one of the first posts I think we saw of his rescue efforts of Starlink, that these people would be able to communicate to their families. How many of them was that their first opportunity to tell people that they were safe, that they were alive?
Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest, aside from pulling people out, like just to set my own Starlink on the ground and let everybody connect to it at certain spots, and them like hearing them when they're just hearing them when their kids picked up the phone and they tell them. I mean, it was pretty intense, man. I'm not gonna lie. That was cool. And then we would also just put all their numbers in our phone. And then when my wife would get connection, she would text them all, and like the families would reply and just be like, "Thank you so much. Like, where are they?" And that's what we'd tell them. We would just tell them what we saw, and it was incredible. Like, it was incredibly humbling to just see fellow human beings, Americans, where you think the best life you can have is, and these people had nothing but a quarter of a water bottle left, and like no plan, because they just didn't know what to do. It's crazy to reflect on it.
I mean, it's incredible just hearing that story. And we were talking on the download this week with Dale and Amy about what people can do to help the relief efforts, whether that's bring food, donate money. I mean, you were there talking to these people. You've been helping with the relief efforts. What's the best, most effective way people in the area, people across the country can help?
I don't 100% know the answer to that question anymore, because I haven't been there for a couple days. But for example, like Hope Mill Inc., when we got there, this woman named Erin, we met her at the airport, and she was just like, "Hey, you guys have a helicopter? I have supplies." And I was like, "Great. Where, do you have a spot to go?" She's like, "Yeah." And that's when we started like really making missions happen. And she was using Venmo, and so I posted her Venmo, and Venmo shut it down for some reason, like right when she got to $10,000. So she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna start a GoFundMe. Will you post that?" We post that up. It's at $594,000 right now. So
Wow.
that's the Hope Mill Inc. Relief Fund. I think that, like, I haven't communicated with her in a day or two. I don't know how much money she wants to get, but I can tell you that woman is 1,000% going to use that money for the right thing, because, a lot of donation points, it's like kind of scary. Do you know what the money's going to be used for? This lady was there. She was the first one there. One of the most selfless people I've ever met. Organized, making it happen. I have 100% trust that money is going to the right place. So she's a good one. And then for Matt McSwain, I think he's the one in charge of, there's a fuel helicopters to save North Carolina, and that one's up to, man, like, it's over $100,000 as well. Oh, here, let's see. It's at $315,000 in fuel for the private pilots, because there's about 50 helicopters up there now, and doing this deal, Operation Airdrop. So another nonprofit came in. Like day one, Erin helped us a lot, and she's still operating up there. And then this other nonprofit came in, Operation Airdrop. By day two, day one we had 3 or 4 private helicopters. Actually, maybe a little more. By the end of day one, we had probably 10, and then by day 2 there was about 40. And then I heard yesterday there was over 50. But those are the two groups that I can speak to. I would trust giving money to Operation Airdrop and Hope Mill Fund.
You, Greg Biffle, your wife, you guys have all impacted these people's lives in such tremendous ways. What type of impact do you think this experience helping people is going to have on you?
You know, I don't feel any different about, much other than the fact that like getting out there and seeing that stuff definitely makes you realize how little some of the stuff we deal with in our everyday life matters. Like, for example, I blew the transmission in a brand new build today, and it's like, why even get mad about it? A younger Cleetus would probably throw his hat on the ground and be pissed off, but it's like, we just don't even know how good we have it, and it's really a perspective thing that I think I'll never have the same perspective I did going into it, just because when you get down and dirty and see that stuff, we have it so good. I can't even describe how good we have it. So
Yeah.
I think Biffle and everybody, when we all got out of there, like for the night, we were all just like, damn, like that was crazy. And Biffle and his wife are just the greatest people. So I don't know, just a lot of really good people, man, like that were helping out. So I think that everyone was on the same team and came out with the same humble opinion that we have it really good, and those people are in for a long battle.
Mm-hmm. I know you're back in Florida now, right?
Yep.
Do you know if you're making any plans to go back and continue
Yeah.
with it? I know you're racing tomorrow, I want to say.
Yeah,
right?
we're racing this weekend, but
Yeah.
Matt McSwain, the owner of Acme Aero, is kind of like my communication point, because he's helping with Operation Airdrop. Like, he's the one in the office telling these helicopters go here, these to go there. Great guy. I spoke with him yesterday, said, hey, we don't need you. Spoke with him today, hey, we don't need you. Because at this point, there's like all the critical missions that we could serve have been served. Like, hey, this guy's got a broken leg up here, needs to get pulled out. It seems as though a lot of stuff like that has been served. I don't want to speak for everybody, but now they're just bringing in generators, fuel tanks, Starlinks. And Matt called me earlier today that they're going to try and like switch to they're going to use helicopters still, but switch to like ground vehicles like UTVs or Broncos, and try and just like haul a lot of supplies in that'll help with power and internet. So
Yeah.
I think we won't be going back. I think we're done.
Where can people follow along on, I've enjoyed seeing your updates. Where can people follow you, follow your racing, so that,
Yeah.
that we can, stay
I think
more in touch?
for updates on the storm, like you could follow Greg Biffle's page. He's still posting stuff. I'm posting some updates from Operation Airdrop on my Facebook page, which is Garrett Mitchell. But if you want to watch the fun stuff, like the racing content that we produce, the best place is the Cleetus McFarland YouTube channel. That's where that's where all of our action happens.
Well, Cleetus, thank you so much for taking some time, and more so, thank you for everything you've done to help all these
Thanks, man.
people so far.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I said, what an incredible impact you've made on all these people's lives, and I know people are really going to appreciate what
Thanks,
you,
man.
Greg Biffle, and everyone's done.
And thanks for bringing more awareness to it. I think the more money that we can get to those GoFundMes, I think 100% it's going to go to the people of North Carolina with nothing in between it. It's going to go from the donators' hands right to their hands and helping them rebuild. So appreciate you bringing awareness to it.